First contact gone wrong, the massive Zephrian fleet descended through the asteroid belt like a storm of metal and energy. 12 warships, each the size of a small city, moved in perfect formation toward the blue planet that hung in the void. Ahead, their hulls gleamed with advanced alloys that could withstand the fury of solar winds and cosmic radiation. Energy weapons, capable of melting mountains, hummed with barely contained power, Captain. Vex stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's edge, his 3 eyes focused on the tactical display. The Zephrian was tall and lean, with silver skin that reflected the bridge lights and long fingers that ended in razor-sharp claws. His species had conquered 47 worlds in the past century, and Earth would be number 48. Final approach confirmed, Captain, reported his tactical officer. The humans show no signs of advanced orbital defenses. Their satellites are primitive communication devices, nothing more. Vex clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The reconnaissance drones had done their work well. For 2 Earth years, they had studied this world from the shadows, analyzing human technology and society. The reports were encouraging. The humans fought with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. Most importantly, they were divided into competing nations that spent more time fighting each other than developing defenses. Prepare the first wave, Vex ordered. Deploy to the northern continent. The intelligence suggests this region has the fewest military installations. The first landing craft separated from the main fleet and began its descent toward Earth. Inside, 20 Zephrian warriors checked their equipment one final time. Each soldier wore powered armor that could deflect small arms fire and carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. Their mission was simple: establish a beachhead, demonstrate superior firepower, and demand surrender from the local authorities. The craft touched down in a clearing surrounded by tall evergreen trees. Snow covered the ground, and the air was crisp and clean. According to their maps, this was Alaska, a sparsely populated region of the nation called the United States. The perfect place to begin a quiet invasion. The landing ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss, and the Zephrian warriors emerged into the Earth morning. Their boots crunched on frozen ground as they spread out in a standard formation. Everything seemed peaceful and primitive. The trees were just trees, the snow was just snow, and the small wooden building in the distance looked like something from their historical archives. That building was the ranger station for Denali National Park. It had been built 50 years ago to house the staff who maintained the trails and protected the wildlife. It looked harmless enough, but appearances could be deceiving. Inside the station, Sarah Chen heard the unfamiliar sound of the landing craft and looked up from her morning coffee. She was 42 years old, with black hair streaked with gray, and hands that showed the calluses of outdoor work. For the past 10 years, she had been a park ranger, helping tourists and maintaining the wilderness preserve. But before that, she had spent 15 years in the United States Marine Corps, including 3 combat deployments in hostile territories. Sarah moved to the window and saw the alien soldiers spreading out across the clearing. Her military training kicked in immediately. She counted the enemies, noted their weapons and armor, and assessed the tactical situation. Then she reached for the radio. Anchorage Control, this is Ranger Station 7. We have uninvited guests. Big ones, armed and definitely not from around here. The response came back immediately. Ranger Station 7, please clarify your report. Sarah watched the aliens advance toward her station. Their movements were professional but predictable. They moved like soldiers who had never faced serious opposition. "I've got 20 unknown hostiles in powered armor carrying energy weapons. They just landed in a spacecraft. I think we're looking at first contact, and they don't seem friendly." There was a long pause before the radio crackled again. "Ranger Station 7, are you requesting backup?" Sarah smiled grimly as she reached for her rifle. It was a standard hunting weapon designed for taking down large game like moose and bears. But Sarah had modifications made to it over the years, improvements that drew on her military experience. Negative anchorage. "I'm requesting that you alert the military. Tell them we're under attack." The lead Zephrian warrior approached the ranger station with confidence. His armor's sensors detected one human life sign inside the building. One primitive human with no energy weapons, no protective gear, and no way to threaten a superior alien force. This would be easy. He activated his suit's translation system and spoke in what he believed was the local language. "Human, you will surrender immediately. This world now belongs to the Zephrian Empire. Resistance is futile." Sarah stepped out of the station with her rifle in her hands. The alien was bigger than she had expected, maybe 7 feet tall, but size had never intimidated her. She had faced down human enemies who were just as big and twice as mean. "You're on United States territory without permission," she said calmly. "You have 10 seconds to get back in your ship and leave." The alien warriors looked at each other. In confusion, this was not how conquests were supposed to go. The humans should be terrified, begging for mercy, offering immediate surrender. Instead, this small female was giving them orders. "You do not understand," the lead warrior said. "We possess superior technology and overwhelming firepower. You cannot resist us." Sarah's expression didn't change. "Son, I've been shot at by experts. You don't impress me." She raised her rifle. 9 seconds. The warrior made a decision that would haunt the Zephrian Empire for generations. He raised his energy weapon and fired a warning shot at the ground near Sarah's feet. The blast melted snow and scorched earth, sending up a cloud of steam. Sarah looked at the smoking crater and nodded. "That's what I thought." Then she pulled the trigger. The bullet struck the warrior's helmet with tremendous force. The armor was designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb impacts from primitive projectiles. But Sarah's rifle fired armor-piercing rounds at extremely high velocity. The bullet punched through the alien's protection like it was made of paper. The warrior staggered backward, purple blood leaking from his damaged helmet. He looked down at the hole in his supposedly impenetrable armor and whispered, "Impossible." Sarah worked the bolt on her rifle and fired again. A second warrior fell. The others opened fire, energy beams lighting up the morning air, but Sarah was already moving. 15 years of military training had taught her how to use terrain for cover. She rolled behind a fallen log as energy blasts scorched the air where she had been standing. The aliens spread out, trying to flank her position, but Sarah had advantages they didn't understand. She knew this land like the back of her hand. Every tree, every rock, every depression in the ground was familiar to her. She moved through the forest like a ghost, appearing long enough to take a shot, then disappearing again. Meanwhile, her radio call had reached the military command center in Anchorage. Colonel James Morrison had been enjoying a quiet morning when the alert came through. He was a career officer with 30 years of experience, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Sir, we're getting reports of hostile contact at Denali National Park. Ranger Chen is engaged with unknown forces." Morrison grabbed his coffee and headed for the command center. What kind of unknown forces? According to the Ranger, they're extraterrestrial in origin. Multiple hostiles in powered armor with energy weapons. Morrison stopped walking. In all his years of service, he had planned for invasions by foreign nations, terrorist attacks, and natural disasters. But alien invasion had never been on the list. Get me a direct line to the Pentagon, and scramble the nearest fighter squadron. The word spread through military channels like wildfire. Within minutes, every major command center in North America was aware of the situation, but the response wasn't limited to official military forces. Sarah's radio transmission had been picked up by emergency services, and from there it spread to police departments, fire stations, and civilian emergency networks in the small town of Fairbanks. RETRIED. Army Master Sergeant Tom Bradley heard the news on his police scanner. He had been working in his garage when the transmission came through. Tom was 65 years old and had been retired for 10 years, but he still kept his old military equipment in working condition. He grabbed his rifle and headed for his truck. As he drove toward the park, Tom used his radio to contact other veterans in the area. The informal network of retired military personnel had stayed in touch over the years, meeting for coffee and sharing stories. Now they had a new mission. This is Bradley. Any old soldiers listening need to get to Denali National Park. We've got aliens on the ground, and Ranger Chen is holding them off alone. The response was immediate. Former soldiers from all branches of the military began converging on the park. They brought their personal weapons, their military experience, and their determination to defend their home. Back at the landing site, the Zephrian warriors were discovering that conquering Earth was not going to be as easy as they had expected. Sarah Chen had already eliminated 5 of their number, and the others were pinned down by her accurate fire. Their energy weapons were powerful, but they were slow to recharge and difficult to aim at a moving target. Request immediate reinforcements, the surviving squad leader transmitted to the orbiting fleet. Human resistance is heavier than anticipated. Captain Vex received the transmission with growing confusion. His intelligence had indicated that humans were weak and divided. A single human shouldn't be able to threaten a full squad of Zephrian warriors. Clarify your situation, he ordered. The human is armed with a primitive kinetic weapon, but our armor is not providing adequate protection. She appears to have military training and is using the terrain to her advantage. We need additional support. Vex's mandibles clicked in irritation. You are elite warriors with superior technology. Deal with one primitive human. But the situation was about to get much worse for the Zephrian forces. The first civilian vehicles were arriving at the park, and they carried passengers who were anything but helpless. Tom Bradley parked his truck behind the ranger station and grabbed his equipment bag. Inside were weapons and gear that most civilians would never have access to. He found Sarah Chen reloading her rifle behind a large boulder. She looked up as he approached, noting his military bearing and professional equipment. You, military? She asked. 25 years Army, Tom replied. Heard you could use some help. Sarah smiled for the first time since the aliens had landed. How many more are coming? Every veteran in a 50-mile radius, Tom said, and a few active duty personnel who happened to be off duty. The aliens were about to learn a harsh lesson about human society. They had assumed that only professional soldiers would be dangerous. They had not realized that America was a nation where military service was common, where millions of citizens had combat training, and where the right to bear arms was considered. Fundamental, as the sun climbed higher in the Alaska sky, more vehicles arrived at the park. They brought former Marines, retired Air Force personnel, ex-Navy SEALs, and Army veterans. Each one carried weapons and equipment that would have been impressive even by military standards. But more than that, they brought experience, determination, and a shared understanding of what needed to be done. The Zephrian warriors found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, a civilian population that was also a trained militia. Every human who arrived at the park brought unique skills and knowledge. They set up overlapping fields of fire, established communication networks, and began coordinating their attacks with military precision. Captain Vex watched the tactical display with growing alarm. His first landing force was not just encountering resistance. They were being systematically destroyed by what appeared to be ordinary civilians. The humans were using tactics that suggested extensive military training, and their weapons were far more effective than the intelligence reports had indicated. "Deploy the second wave," Vex ordered. "Full combat loadout. These humans are more dangerous than we anticipated." But as the second landing craft descended toward Earth, the aliens were about to discover that their problems were just beginning. The humans had spent the past few hours studying alien technology, analyzing their tactics, and preparing a response that would shock the Zephrian Empire to its core. The war for Earth had begun, and the aliens were starting to realize they had made a terrible mistake. The human response. The second wave of Zephrian warriors descended through Earth's atmosphere with grim determination. Captain Vex had ordered them to deploy with full combat equipment, including heavy weapons and advanced reconnaissance gear. The reports from the first landing force had been troubling. Humans were not supposed to be this dangerous. The landing craft set down in a clearing 5 miles from the original site, where the sounds of battle could still be heard. The new force consisted of 30 warriors, each equipped with the most advanced weapons the Zephrian Empire could provide. They carried plasma cannons, energy mortars, and personal shields that could deflect almost any attack as they disembarked. The squad leader activated his long-range sensors. The readings were disturbing. Instead of the scattered, disorganized resistance they had expected, the sensors detected coordinated human movements throughout the forest. Military vehicles were converging on the area from multiple directions, and aircraft were circling overhead. "Command, this is second landing force," the squad leader reported. "Human military response is larger than anticipated. Request permission to engage with extreme prejudice." Captain Vex's response was immediate. "Permission granted. Show these primitives the price of resistance." But the humans had been busy during the hours since first contact. Word of the alien invasion had spread through every military and civilian network on the planet. In Washington, D.C., the president had been awakened in the middle of the night to receive a briefing that would have seemed like science fiction just hours before. "Mr. President, we have confirmed extraterrestrial contact in Alaska. The aliens appear to be hostile, and they're engaged with civilian defenders." The president, a former Navy officer himself, didn't waste time on disbelief. "What are our options? We're mobilizing all available forces, but it will take time to get them to Alaska. The good news is that local resistance is holding the line." The president didn't know was that the local resistance was growing by the hour. The informal network of military veterans had activated contacts across the country. Social media platforms carried real-time updates from the battlefield. Ham radio operators relayed information to remote areas. The entire nation was becoming aware of the threats, and the response was unlike anything the world had ever seen in Colorado Springs. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was monitoring the situation from her laboratory at the Air Force Academy. Elena was a physicist and engineer who specialized in advanced materials and energy systems. She had been following the reports from Alaska with professional interest, but when the first images of alien technology appeared on her screen, she knew her expertise would be needed. "Get me a secure line to the Pentagon," she told her assistant, "and start packing my equipment. We're going to Alaska." Elena's reputation in the scientific community was legendary. She had developed new armor systems for the military, created advanced propulsion concepts, and published papers on theoretical physics that were considered groundbreaking. But her most important qualification was her ability to reverse engineer complex technology under pressure. As Elena's team prepared for deployment, the battle in Alaska was intensifying. The second wave of Zephrian warriors had advanced through the forest, expecting to overwhelm the human defenders with superior firepower. Instead, they found themselves walking into a carefully prepared ambush. Tom Bradley had used his years of military experience to organize the civilian defenders into an effective fighting force. He had established overlapping fields of fire, created communication networks, and coordinated with the military units that were beginning to arrive. The humans were no longer just defending, they were hunting. "Alpha Team, this is Bradley. Enemy squad moving through Sector 7. Weapons free." The response came from a former Marine sniper named Maria Santos. She had served 2 tours in Iraq and was now a police officer in Anchorage. She had driven through the night to reach the battle, bringing her precision rifle and a determination to protect her home. "I have visual on the target," Maria reported. Taking the shot, the high-powered rifle round struck the lead Zephrian warrior in the center of his chest plate. The alien's armor was designed to deflect energy weapons, but the kinetic impact of the bullet overwhelmed its protection systems. The warrior fell, and his squad immediately took cover. But the humans had learned from the first engagement. They had studied the alien tactics and identified weaknesses in their equipment and procedures. The Zephrian warriors were trained to fight other aliens with energy weapons and powered armor. They were not prepared for enemies who used camouflage, stealth, and precision marksmanship. "Bravo Team, flank left," Tom Bradley ordered. "Charlie Team, move to intercept." The human defenders moved through the forest like they owned it, which in a sense they did. Every tree and rock was familiar to them. They knew which paths were safe, where to find cover, and how to move without being detected. The aliens, for all their advanced technology, were fighting on unfamiliar ground against an enemy that seemed to appear and disappear at will as the battle raged. Military reinforcements began arriving. The first to reach the scene were members of the Alaska National Guard, but they were quickly followed by active duty personnel from nearby bases. Fighter jets screamed overhead, and helicopter gunships took up positions around the perimeter. But the most significant development was taking place in a mobile laboratory that had been hastily established near the battle zone. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had arrived with a team of scientists and engineers, and they were examining pieces of alien technology that had been recovered from the battlefield. "The energy source is fascinating," Elena explained to the military officers who were observing her work. "It's based on principles we understand, but the implementation is far more advanced than anything we've developed." She held up a damaged alien weapon. "However, their weapons are optimized for fighting other energy-based systems. They're not designed to deal with kinetic impacts from high-velocity projectiles." Elena's team worked with incredible speed and efficiency. They dismantled alien equipment, analyzed its components, and began developing countermeasures. Within hours, they had created modifications to human weapons that made them even more effective against alien armor. "We can do better than just copy their technology," Alina announced. "We can improve on it." The breakthrough came when Elena's team discovered that the alien shields operated on a specific frequency range. By modifying human weapons to operate outside that range, they could render the alien defenses useless. But Alina had an even better idea. "We're going to turn their own technology against them," she said. Working through the night, Elena's team created hybrid weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology. They developed new ammunition that could penetrate any armor, created portable energy shields that were more effective than the alien versions, and designed communication systems that could coordinate attacks across vast distances. The real test came the next morning when the third wave of Zephrian warriors arrived. Captain Vex had sent his best troops, equipped with the most advanced weapons available. But they were about to face an enemy that had spent the previous day learning, adapting, and improving. The battle was over in minutes. The human defenders, now equipped with hybrid weapons and advanced tactics, overwhelmed the alien force with devastating efficiency. The Zephrian warriors found their armor useless, their weapons ineffective, and their tactics outdated. "Impossible," Captain Vex whispered as he watched the tactical display. His elite forces were being destroyed by primitives who should have been helpless against superior technology. But the humans were far from finished. Alina Rodriguez had made another breakthrough. She had learned to operate alien communication systems, and she was listening to the conversations between the alien ships in orbit. "They're planning to retreat," she reported to the military commanders. "But they're also preparing to bombard the planet from orbit to destroy the evidence of their defeat." The human response was swift and decisive. Using captured alien technology, they had developed the ability to strike back at the orbiting fleet. The first human spacecraft, equipped with hybrid weapons, launched from a secret facility in Nevada. It was piloted by Colonel Sarah Mitchell, a former test pilot who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission of her career. "This is Eagle 1, Sarah reported as her craft approached the alien fleet. "Target acquired." The Zephrian ships were not prepared for an attack from below. Their shields were oriented toward threats from other spacecraft, not from primitive, planet-bound weapons. Sarah's hybrid missiles penetrated their defenses and struck the flagship with devastating effect. Captain Vex felt his ship shudder under the impact. Alarms wailed throughout the bridge as his crew reported massive damage to critical systems. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They had no space-based weapons yesterday." The answer came from his intelligence officer, who had been monitoring human communications. "Sir, the humans appear to have reverse-engineered our technology and improved upon it. They're not just copying our weapons, they're creating better versions." Vex stared at the tactical display in horror. The humans were not just defending their planet, they were preparing to take the war to the stars. In less than 48 hours, they had gone from primitive defenders to a spacefaring threat. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human government." The face that appeared on the screen was calm and professional. It belonged to the President of the United States, but behind him stood representatives from every major nation on Earth. The humans had not just united against the alien threat, they had formed a planetary alliance in record time. "Captain Vex," the President said, "we need to discuss the terms of your surrender." Vex's mandibles clicked in shock. "Surrender? We are the superior force, the president corrected. You made a fundamental error in your assessment of our species. You assumed that technology determines strength, but you forgot about adaptation, innovation, and the will to survive. The president gestured to the tactical display, which showed human forces throughout the solar system. In the past 2 days, we've learned everything we need to know about your technology. We've improved upon it, and we've built weapons that can defeat your entire fleet. You have one choice: leave peacefully or be destroyed. Captain Vex looked at his officers and saw the truth in their eyes. The humans had done the impossible. They had taken alien technology and made it better. They had unified their entire species in less than 2 days. Most importantly, they had shown that they were not just intelligent. They were adaptable, innovative, and absolutely ruthless when threatened. We accept your terms, Vex said quietly. The president nodded. Your ships will be escorted to the edge of our solar system. You will not return, and you will spread the word to any other species that might be considering a similar action. Earth is not a target, it's a fortress, and the humans who live here are not victims, they're warriors. As the Zephrian fleet limped away from Earth, Captain Vex transmitted a message to the Empire's High Command. It was a warning that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Earth is not what we thought, he reported. The humans are not a primitive species. They are something far more dangerous. They are survivors, innovators, and fighters. Any species that threatens them will face not just resistance, but evolution. They will take your technology, improve upon it, and use it to destroy you. The message continued. The humans have shown us that strength is not measured by the weapons you carry, but by the will to fight and the ability to adapt. They have proven that a species doesn't need to be the strongest to be the most dangerous. They just need to be human. The Zephrian Empire never attempted another invasion of Earth. Word of their defeat spread through the galaxy, and other species took note. Earth became known as the world where primitives had defeated advanced aliens through sheer determination and ingenuity. But the humans were not content to simply defend their planet. The technology they had captured and improved launched them into a new age of space exploration. Within a decade, human colonies were established throughout the solar system. Within a century, human explorers were venturing to distant stars, and everywhere they went, they carried with them the lesson they had learned during those 2 days. In Alaska, that the greatest strength was not in the weapons you carried, but in the will to fight and the ability to adapt. They had proven that humanity's greatest asset was not their technology, but their humanity itself. The galaxy had learned to fear the humans, not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they were the most dangerous thing any species could encounter. Survivors who refused to give up. Innovators who could turn any challenge into an opportunity, and warriors who would never stop fighting for what they believed in. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol of human determination and a warning to any species that might threaten them. Set foot on Earth, and you would instantly know it was an error. Asterisk,